Welcome to coverage of Round 13 from Grand Prix Minneapolis. Maria Bartholdi in the booth, joined by Melissa DeTora, Paul Hagen on the left side of your screen on Mono Black Zombies, Brad Nelson on the right side, Black Green Constrictor. Mono Black Zombies versus Black Green Constrictor is kind of a match we assumed we would see a little bit more of coming in this weekend, but we've been pleasantly surprised in quite an array of decks. But these two decks both still extremely strong, and Nelson showing up with a very aggressive low-to-the-ground version of Black-Green.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not surprised to see these decks perform well today. If you were going to ask me what is the deck to play this week, I probably would have answered Mono Black Zombies.
You did, in fact, when I asked you.
You're absolutely right. I already answered this question. Yep.
And it's turned out to be pretty good. Paul Hagen here sitting at 10-2, kicking things off with a Relentless Dead. Brad Nelson answers with a Winding Constrictor. Zombies was kind of the deck that was a metagame decision at the Pro Tour, as it matches up pretty well against ramming up red.
Yeah, for sure. It floods the board with creatures. It also plays the best removal spells. It plays usually 8 copies of 1-mana removal spells in the form of Fatal Push and Dark Salvation, and it also plays Grasp of Darkness, which is the best answer to Hazoret. Also, one interesting thing about Brad Nelson right now, his record is 9-1-2.
That is
two.
Weird.
That's a lot of draws. That is too many draws, in my opinion.
Yeah, nobody likes to draw.
Unless you're drawing into the top 8 or something.
Yeah, that's true. Or if you're an artist, that's it.
Oh, I bet artists really like to draw.
I bet they like to draw.
I bet people who like artists really appreciate the fact that they like to draw.
All right, we're going to see a Fatal Push taking down that Winding Constrictor from Brad Nelson.
Perfect answer to the snake.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about how kind of one-for-one removal was the name of the game this weekend, despite the fact that there's a lot of sweepers and mass removal in the format.
Yeah, for sure. But one thing that Zombies has going for it is one-for-one removal is not very effective against it. It plays Relentless Dead, which as long as you have a black mana open, it just comes back to your hand. And if you have more mana open, you can just return other zombies, so you can't actually kill that guy at all.
Zombies, they just keep on coming back for your brains.
Yep, also Relentless Dead, Liliana the Last Hope can return something like a Diregraph Colossus. Also, Dark Salvation just makes zombies. Liliana's Mastery makes zombies. So one-for-one removal, not effective against this at all. It just plays so many 2-for-1s.
Rishkar Puma Renegade was the play from Brad Nelson. Paul Hagen currently has 2 copies of Ifnir Deadlands in play, and that's something you don't want to forget about in these matchups.
Oh, definitely not, especially against the snake player. It just outright kills a snake. It gives an additional counter.
Relentless Dead gets in for 2. Follow-up play is Kalitas.
Look at this Kalitas.
It's a pretty good card. 3/4 lifelinker. It's got to be dealt with pretty much immediately.
Oh, yeah, if you untap with that thing and you have removal in your hand, you're just going to make many zombies.
There you can see a look at it. 2 and a black, you can sacrifice another vampire or zombie. Give it 2 +1/+1 counters. And if you kill something that your opponent controls, make a zombie.
Yeah, definitely the most relevant ability on this guy is the first one, this if a non-token creature would die, make a zombie. Super strong here against creature decks. It's also very relevant against graveyard strategies. Like it just exiles Champion of Wits, exiles Earthshaker Kenra.
That's a good point. Vergius Gearhulk is the play for Nelson. Gonna try beefing up his creatures so that Kalitas does not beat them in combat.
Absolutely. One thing that the black-green deck has going for it is current black removal lines up pretty poorly against anything with more than 4 toughness. Like you have cards like Never Return that can kill anything, and maybe even murder. But generally people have opted to play Fatal Push, Dark Salvation, and Grasp of Darkness. So not so good at killing 5/5s or 6/6s, which is what this Verdurous Gearhulk is right now.
Diregraph Colossus, the play for Paul. No counters, as there are no zombies currently in the yard.
That's a very sad Diregraph Colossus.
Yes, it is.
Especially with no follow-up zombie.
Yeah. Just a 2/2 for 3. Has the ability.
You might even call it a Grey Ogre.
You might.
So what does Brad have going on? It looks like he has a lot of basic lands in hand.
And some real beef on the battlefield, though.
Definitely some beef on the battlefield, but he does not have the best attacks here.
Even so, we're going to make a walking ballista.
Oh, this ballista gives him some pretty decent attacks, so like now double blocking is way less appealing.
Ballista is just so versatile and really strong against a lot of the strategies we expected coming in this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty good against mono red, pretty good against things like Champion of Wits, just like ping it, gain a bunch of tempo.
And we've been seeing a lot of Virtuous Gear Hulks just load up the ballista with counters as well.
Oh, for sure. So you cast a 5-mana 4/4, and then you just give your walking ballista 4 counters, which is just essentially 4 damage. This is a really nice attack here from Brad. Paul cannot triple block because of this walking ballista threatening to kill his creatures, so his blocks are just really bad here. If he has a Grasp of Darkness in hand, it makes his blocks a little better, so we'll see if he has anything to deal with this stuff.
He is representing Grasp with those 2 swamps open, so that's got to be something that Brad is thinking about. Even if he has it, it's not too disadvantageous for him to attack here anyway.
He has something. All right, looks like...
Fatal Push.
Oh, Fatal Push is nice, so he can ping this Diagraph Colossus in response, which makes his blocks still really bad. But it does give him a zombie. So Brad is going to ping Paul in the face. His ballista is going to get exiled. Paul's going to make a zombie. And now he can triple block.
Oh, interesting. Look at this.
And like this triple block is actually going to work out in Paul's favor because he's going to kill one of the creatures and just have a replacement zombie. Thanks to Kalidas.
They say if you get a zombie, make sure you have a replacement one.
Well, that's the thing about zombies. They just always replace themselves. They're zombies. They are just the undead. That's what they do.
Gear Hulk down, triple block, kills Kalidas, Relentless Dead, and a zombie token still in play for Paul Hagen. And 21 life as well, thanks to Kalitas' lifelink. Brad on 16.
I definitely like Paul's position here. He can just block with this Relentless Dead all day, and then it threatens to return itself to play and return another zombie to play.
Liliana's Mastery here from Paul will add another 2 zombies to the battlefield and beef up all of his creatures that he also currently has.
And Brad has had enough, and he scoops it up.
All right, game 1 goes to Paul Hagen. Chalk 1 up for the zombie horde. There's a look at our players in the feature match area. Paul Hagen repping the Minnesota sweatshirt here at GP Minneapolis.
That's your neck of the woods.
It sure is. I am Minnesota born and bred. Love it here. Minneapolis is a fantastic city, full of art and theater and wonderful things to do. We've got some great game stores in town.
Very cool. Brad is from North Dakota.
That's right.
He does not currently live there, but that's where he was born and raised. I remember when I met Brad, it was at a nationals one year, I want to say 2007, 2008. He was super young. His little brother Corey was there.
Aww.
They qualified via rating because like back then we had ELO rating. So like the more wins you had, the higher your rating, and you could qualify for nationals on that. And I remember I qualified for nationals that year on rating. Both Brad and his brother qualified on rating too, and they were like, yeah, we're the best players in North Dakota. All we do is win our F&Ms. We never lose, and we qualified on rating.
That's so great.
And then Brad went on to become one of the best players in the game. He was player of the year maybe like a year or two later. And now he's just super high-level pro, was player of the year like I think twice in his lifetime.
Wow. And he's here with his brother at this event as well.
Yep.
Both of them on Black-Green Constrictor.
They're both still playing. This was like 10 years ago.
Yeah. I love when family members can play Magic together.
Oh, yeah, that's super cool. We have Ian and Reed Duke. They're actually from New England, so they played in my PTQs back when I was playing, when I was living out there. And I remember Ian was the better Duke, and Reed was this little kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember when I played Reed for the first time before he was anything, and he was this kid. And I knew that his brother was Ian. I'm like, oh, his brother's really good, but this is just a kid, you know? So we were playing for like top 8 of a 5K, right?
Yeah.
It was run by Your Move Games probably. So like we're playing and I'm like, oh, this is a kid, so I'm going to win. The end. And he was really, really good. And I was super impressed with his play. And I ended up winning the match, but I remember how close it was and how impressed I was. I was like, wow, this kid is really good. And then he became Reed Duke.
That kid grew up to become Reed Duke, ladies and
Because he
gentlemen.
wasn't Reed Duke before.
I mean, he always had Reed Duke within his capability to be.
But what a family, though. Like Reed, Platinum Pro, really strong player, has a a Pro Tour top 8, many Grand Prix wins, and then Ian is our technical lead on the play design team in R&D.
That's so cool. And now you see it today with the likes of the Kiefer family as well.
Right, yeah. Those kids are going to become something if they keep playing.
They are really good. I saw them playing at the Grand Prix in Kyoto ahead of the Pro Tour, just putting up really impressive results. Their mom was there with them. It was pretty adorable.
Yeah, actually, one of the brothers was in a Daily MTG article recently, and he qualified for the Pro Tour. The article was about first-time Pro Tour players, and I remember the article mentioned the mom, and like his mom was like, Ramanap Red's going to be really good. I went to the game stores, and they were all sold out of Bomac couriers.
She called
Listen to your mom.
And then the kid was like, oh, I should have listened to my mom. Because I don't think he played it. I think he played the God Pharaoh's Gift deck.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He played the God Pharaoh's Gift deck, didn't do super well with it. But, man, let this be a lesson to you guys. Listen to your moms.
Hold on. I'm going to text my mom right now. What should I play at Grand Prix Denver in 2 weeks? Send.
All right, looks like these players are ready for game 2.
Which deck do you favor in this matchup, Melissa?
I think the Zombies deck. Like I was saying earlier, the removal matches up pretty poorly against Zombies because all the threats are so resilient. It plays lots of 2-for-1s. And it just like floods the board really well. As long as it can deal with a big Verderus Gear Hulk, you know?
Right.
Like that's like the biggest threat against this deck, I think.
Looks like Paul is staring down a mana-heavy hand. I spot a Crypt Breaker in there. I almost said Crypt Keeper. And a Grasp of Darkness. There's our Crypt Breaker.
Crypt Breaker. I love this card. I helped design this card.
Did you really?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I played the zombie deck a ton.
Tell me a little bit about how you arrived at this final design.
So we felt that the zombie deck needed a 1-drop. And we felt that the zombie deck needed some, like it had plenty of resiliency, like it had plenty of ways to just like have your creatures not die, like Relentless Dead. It had ways of flooding the board, but like it just didn't have like raw card advantage. So we wanted to have some kind of card draw ability. And Black's color pie is you can draw cards in black, but you have to like lose life as a cost. You can't just draw free cards. So we decided to just have this like heritage druid like text on there. And we also thought it'd be cool if it made zombies as well. So, you know, we have this little 1-drop 1/1 with all these abilities. And, like, that's pretty much how we arrived at it. But, like, the zombie deck was just missing something. And we knew it was a 1-drop. So we just had to find this, like, 1-drop design that worked pretty well. So I'm pretty happy about it.
It's so cool. And it's such a neat card. Like you said, it really does all of these things to really help shore up the deck and make it competitive.
Yeah, it was definitely what the deck was missing. Like, Dread Wanderer was not doing enough as a 1-drop, and your other options are like 1/1 that when it dies gives something a counter, things like that. Just not strong enough, you know.
Well, we've got a Nissa joining the party on Brad's side of the battlefield, as well as a Walking Ballista and a plant token. Crypt Breaker is joined by a zombie over for Paul.
Perfect, like, sequencing, right? Turn 1, Crypt Breaker. Turn 2, make a zombie. Turn 3, have some kind of 3-drop, draw a card. This card's perfect.
Another Crypt Breaker hitting the battlefield for Paul. How do you arrive at knowing even that the deck is missing something?
That's a pretty hard question to answer. Basically, like, people in R&D have been playing Magic, even on the Pro Tour level, for a long time, and we just have a very deep knowledge and history of the game. And, you know, we're playing the decks, and, like, we just basically, like, use our gut. Like what is this deck missing? And it's based on just, how it feels playing. Like sometimes you're building a deck and you're like, all right, well, I built this zombie deck, but I don't have 2 drops, Like that's like a pretty level 1 way of saying what the deck is missing. But sometimes you're just playing matchups and you're like, wow, I'm really struggling against control. I can't beat sweepers. Well, maybe we need a card that's more resilient.
Well, Paul has managed to clean up a little bit of Brad's board here, taking down a plant token and that walking ballista now also in the graveyard. Nissa, though, on 4, and her oath.
Wow, Nissa and the oath.
Yes.
Just like how we drew it up.
I love how excited you are to see your dreams that you had come to fruition. Unfolding in real life at a Grand Prix. It's great.
So what did Brad find here with his Oath of Nissa? Looks like he has a Walking Ballista, a Verdurous Gearhulk. Walking Ballista will be able to take out this Crypt Breaker to stop the card draw engine.
Yeah, it seems just like a critical move to be able to disable your opponent's Crypt Breaker as quickly as you can.
Yeah, you definitely need to. The extra cards are so important because so many cards in this deck are 2-for-1s. So if you just draw more 2-for-1s, you're just going to be able to overwhelm your opponent pretty easily.
So here Paul is choosing to attack Nissa. Plant token will jump in the way.
Is that a
Doomfall? All right.
So I wonder what mode he chooses. Sacrifice a creature, maybe? Oh, wow, that's a very sad Doomfall.
Yeah.
Wow, that is not what you want to be doing. I wonder why he didn't opt to go for the hand there. Because the hand, you would have just taken away this Verdurous Gearhulk, right?
Yeah, now there's a giant 8/8 Trampler out on the battlefield, which seems like a pretty big challenge for the Zombies deck to deal with.
Yeah.
Westvale Abbey comes into play, but jeez.
That was a very interesting choice of Doomfall here. Like, it's a really good way of dealing with, like, a lone creature on the board, but Brad just had a Walking Ballista.
Right.
So it didn't really do a whole lot there. But the other mode would have done a ton.
Nissa ticks up again as another couple of zombies are added to Paul's side of the battlefield with Liliana's Mastery.
This Nissa is threatening ultimate.
Wow.
That so rarely happens.
You know, you wanted to see a Liliana ultimate, and maybe we'll get to see a Nissa one.
Yeah, I think we might actually. So Nissa ultimate is draw cards equal to the number of lands you control and gain X life, where X is the number of lands. That's a lot of cards.
There is currently no line over at Trick Bear's spell slinging.
Ticking slowly up to 7. You probably don't want to fire her off right away.
Maybe. I mean,
There's a lot of cards.
it depends what Brad has in hand. If his hand is relatively nothing, I think you just ultimate this thing.
Dark Salvation there for Paul. In come the zombies. Plant token blocks.
Wow, 2 grasp.
Oh,
Wow, so now he's definitely going to ultimate this Nissa.
no cards in hand for Brad.
Do it. Ultimate. Put that Nissa in the graveyard.
Can you
Do
hear
it.
us, Brad?
Come on, Brad.
Peer pressure.
You got this. I just want him to do this so bad. But he's really thinking about it.
He's going to oath.
This is his last card in hand, too.
Yeah.
Oh, he's looking for land to draw with that 1 extra card, I think. He didn't find it, though.
No, he found another Gear Hulk.
So it looks like his choices are Walking Ballista, Winding Constrictor, Gear Hulk. Goes with Gear Hulk. Ultimate Nissa.
Oh.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. +6 life. +6 cards. Draw those sweet cards.
Brad Nelson drawing 6, gaining 6, bumps up to 26 on a Nissa Ultimate.
Let's be honest, we don't care about the life. We just care about those 6 beautiful cards.
They're so beautiful. He, in fact, drew another Nissa, so it could happen
maybe,
again.
Maybe we got 2 ultimates in a game.
In comes Verdurous Gear Hulk. Wow. Just enormous.
Have you ever seen a bigger Gear Hulk?
I don't think that I have, actually.
Yeah, I think the biggest Gear Hulk I've ever seen was a 12-12, which is what we have now.
Yeah.
Which is just
So
Gear
this is
Hulk with its
currently-
own counters, and then second Gear Hulk with all the other counters. Never.
Never.
Yep.
All right, well, that deals with a giant Gear Hulk. But Brad's got plenty of action in hand, and a 4-4 still on the battlefield. Grasp of Darkness was the draw there. Paul on 3.
It's going to be so hard to come back from this Nissa ultimate.
Activation of a Hissing Quagmire here. Yep.
Yeah, this is probably just game thanks to Trample.
Trample
Yep.
over for the win. Brad Nelson ties things up at 1 game apiece. Black-green Constrictor over mono black zombies. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I was saying earlier that Mono Black Zombies is probably favored just because it has so many 2-for-1s. But when you draw 6 cards with Nissa, you can kind of nullify that card advantage. So one card that both players have access to in sideboards, which is probably good for both of them, is Sky Sovereign.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so hard for black to deal with vehicles because instant black removal are Fatal Push and Grasp of Darkness, and neither of those can kill a Sky Sovereign.
And the 3 damage off Sky Sovereign is actually pretty significant.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, great against creatures.
If you're able to just take down a Winding Constrictor, for instance, that's not wearing any counters yet. Just shoot it down.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if both players boarded them in.
So I have a question. When you're playing at this high level of a Grand Prix and you're considering your sideboard options, you know, you see the players here considering taking cards out, putting them in, this sort of thing. Are you changing your sideboard decisions game to game?
Absolutely. Yeah, so your sideboard, your configuration of your deck is different depending on when you're on the play or the draw, for sure. And also you could decide to bring different cards in based on what sideboard cards you see in game 2.
All right, we're taking a peek here. Ben Alm on white-black tokens versus Brendan Ayers on Ramunap red. This white-black tokens is a deck that we were pretty excited to take a look at. We do know it plays Crested Sunmare, so keep your fingers crossed.
It also plays a
course.
kitty cat.
Yes, there you see a Sacred Cat token. It has been embalmed, but Glorybringer here looking to be the play for Brandon. You can see a hidden stockpile in play underneath an authority of the consoles there for Ben. Hidden stockpile is one of the engines of this deck as well.
So one interesting thing about having white in your deck is you have options to just like sideboard cards that are hard to deal with in the form of enchantments. Like their enchantment removal right now is not really strong. Most people are opting for cards like Dissenter's Deliverance as ways to deal with artifacts, but not really a lot of ways to deal with enchantments. So if you're playing white, you have cards like Solemnity and this card here that I can't think of the name of. Authority of the Console.
Yeah. Authority of the Console at its best in this matchup as well. How about your cards come in tapped, Ramunap red? How about that?
Yeah, take that, haste creatures. Like, seriously, this Authority of the Console is such a beating against haste creatures. And against red in general because you're gaining so much life.
Oh, Fumigate in hand for Ben as well. Which is really interesting with those pair of Anointer Priests out. Shambling Vent going to get activated here.
Yeah, one cool thing about Fumigate out of this deck is even though you have a ton of creatures, like all your creatures have Embalm or they're tokens, so you don't really care if they die because you can just flood the board again very quickly. And Fumigate in this matchup specifically, if he Fumigates, look at all this life he's going to gain.
Oh, yes.
He's probably going to gain 7 life or so.
In comes the team for Ben Alm. He's kind of dividing them up based on who is attacking that Chandra there.
Looks like a lot of things are going after Chandra.
How important is it for him to deal with that Chandra right now?
I would say that it's nice to deal with it, but it's not really necessary. So Brandon is at a pretty low life total. And Chandra is not really doing a whole lot here. Like, it can deal 2 damage a turn. It can kill 1 creature. It's possible that Ben should have just gone after face here and attempt to win the game in 2 turns.
All right, well, it looks like Ben has got this game under control, so we're going to head back over to our main table, where our game is underway. We've got a Catacomb Sifter in play for Brad Nelson, one of the cards that's kind of become a highlight of this current build, along with a Sylvan Advocate.
Yeah, this is like the new tech. 2/3 creature for 3. Not really a super strong card, but it comes with a 1/1 body attached, which can either ramp you or just be a blocker against mono red.
Lord of the Accursed and a zombie token in play for Paul. Unless I'm totally crazy.
Oh, no, you're not crazy. What you said is accurate.
Because those lands are at the same on the same level as the creatures.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on
It's weirding me out.
with his battlefield, but yeah, it does look like those things are in play.
All right, Oath of Nissa here for Brad. Looks like he's going to pick up that Walking Ballista.
Walking Ballista, though, not very effective right here against 3 toughness creatures. Let's see what Brad chooses to do on his turn 3. Okay,
Another
so
Catacomb
another
Sifter.
Catacomb Sifter. And Catacomb Sifter can just get a ton of value, too, because it can scry every time one of your creatures dies.
Is that helpful for something like black-green that doesn't kind of have a lot of ways?
Yeah, it can be. So black-green doesn't really have a lot of card advantage, so being able to manipulate the top of your deck can be pretty valuable.
Oh, yeah, and you mentioned that Sky Sovereign console flagship, and it is in hand for Paul Hagen. He's got a little while to go. One more turn before he can cast it.
Or he can just cast it now. He just played a 5th land.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, he probably wants to take out this Sylvan Advocate. And it looks like that's what we're going to see.
Boom.
Yep, Sylvan Advocate.
Skyboat. Shoot your
Skyboat,
dude.
sure. Yep. It does look like a boat.
I mean, it is.
Oh, I
It's
guess
a
it
ship.
is. I guess it's a boat. You're right. I mean, I was just going to call it 6/5 flyer, but it's also a boat.
I mean, I guess we could sit here and argue if it's a boat or a plane, but that feels like it's like is a hot dog a sandwich argument to me.
Maybe it's an airship.
Sure. Where do you stand on hot dog a sandwich, by the way?
That's a good question. I do understand that there's a lot of controversy behind this question, but it's never
Yeah.
been asked to me before.
Whoa,
so
really?
So I'm pretty stumped.
Okay.
I would go with not a sandwich.
Okay. I agree with you.
Great.
My reasoning is, if I say to you, say I'm sick and I'm like, oh, I just really need a sandwich. Please bring me a sandwich. And somebody comes back to my house and they give me something like a hot dog. I'm going to be like, what's wrong with you? That is not what I said.
That's a great point. I would be pretty offended if I said I really want a sandwich and someone brought me a hot dog.
So let's just call that the final word on this debate. Glad we can all agree.
Confirmed. Hot dog is not sandwich.
Oh, chat polarized forever now.
Looks like Brad is in the tank here with this scry. He has a lot of stuff to deal with. And like I was saying earlier, black removal lines up very poorly against Sky Sovereign.
Yeah.
Pretty much the only thing that can kill it is murder. Can't kill it with Never Return. Can't kill it with Grasp or Fatal Push. You can kill it with something like Dissenter's Deliverance, but I highly doubt Brad has it in his deck here.
Right. And murder's not a card we've seen at all in this Grand Prix.
No, definitely not. It's like kind of a forgotten about card. But it's a 3-mana instant removal. It's still a real card. You could play it over Never Return if you don't expect to see a lot of Planeswalkers and you just really want instant speed stuff.
Yeah, we'll have to see how the metagame evolves after this tournament, looking ahead to Denver. Perhaps murder will make a comeback. Sentence I never thought I'd say.
Murder will make a comeback. All right, so we have Snake followed by Nissa, which will give 2+1/+1 counters to Brad's team.
Nice.
Very strong interaction. So now Brad actually has a very overwhelming board presence, and Paul has to decide, oh, do I want to attack and kill Nissa with a Sky Sovereign? Am I supposed to block with it? but attacking Brad's face doesn't seem like a very good play here, considering his life total is so high and it's like a 4-turn clock. So his best play here is to just sit back and be on defense, I think.
Liliana's Mastery, currently in hand, would help him with that plan.
Yeah, that would help a lot. Like, 3/3s are fine and everything, but Paul is facing down a ton of 4/5s.
Ugh. Yeah, really tough situation here for Paul. Collie toss in hand as well. By the way, an update from our B table that we took a peek on. Black-white tokens was victorious. Ben Alm wins that match 2-0.
It would be great to see a deck like that in the top 8 this weekend.
Oh, yes, it would. After I spent so many times on Magic Online trying to make it work.
That deck can gain a sick amount of life.
I just want to see some horse tokens.
Oh, yeah, sure. Horse tokens are great, too.
Do you remember that, what was it? It was a spell that killed anything and gave you like a gold token, but it was like a golden horse.
Was the name of the card Guild?
Yes,
Okay.
Guild.
So
Yep.
it looks like Paul played the Liliana's Mastery and decided to go after the Nissa here instead of hold back stuff on defense.
Nissa goes down, passes the turn back over to Brad.
I do think Paul is in some trouble because if Brad has one grasp, then his 4/5s are just going to get in there.
Virtuous Gearhulk is his decision off of this Oath of Nissa.
But does he have the land for it?
See a Ballista in hand.
It is my pleasure to announce at 2 p.m.
Looks like he doesn't have the land because I think he just would have slammed it down if he did.
If you'd like to participate in that 2 o'clock event, please complete that registration in the next 45 minutes.
So Brad is doing math, lining up his attackers, seeing if Paul's blocks are good here. Paul can double block one of the 4/5s and take 8, which seems like a pretty appealing attack for Brad.
Yeah, it looks like just a Collie toss and a Transgress in hand for Paul.
Transgress, huh? That's a way to deal with Verdurous Gearhulk.
Yeah, and here you get a peek at why these kind of matches are so tough because it's just so grindy. Sitting here thinking about what are the benefits to attacking all on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. Cards like Sky Sovereign definitely help here. That evasion.
Keep in mind these zombies are 3/3s thanks to Liliana's Mastery.
Oh, Brad is really in the tank here.
Yeah, he is.
Do we know the card in his hand besides the Gearhulk?
I thought it was Walking Ballista.
Ooh. Okay. That's huge.
Boom.
Oh, wow. No, this is insane. Kill one of the zombie blockers and then like suddenly his blocks are really bad.
Yeah, only one swamp open for Paul.
But one thing that Brad does have to consider here though, if he attacks, he's close to dead on the crackback. If Paul decides to take 12,
For our players in 1 o'clock events, if you are
Yeah, all of Brad's creatures are so huge.
yeah. So this is actually a risky attack.
if you are part of
Because let's say Paul just takes it all, takes 12.
Sure.
And then he has a creature
Or
in hand to crew the Sky Sovereign.
Which he does.
Yep. And a way to deal with Walking Ballista. He's still not dead, but he's super close to dead. Like if Paul has, for example, another Liliana's Mastery,
Right.
then suddenly your zombies are bigger. If he has a Lord or something.
How do you arrive at these decisions, too, when you're sitting there thinking about all this stuff?
What I do is I just say, what is the worst possible card for my opponent to have? And if my opponent has 2 cards in hand, I just say, what is the worst 2 possible cards? And if the worst possible cards kill me, I usually make a more conservative play.
All right, 2 zombies here. Looking to jump in to block for Paul.
These blocks are so bad, though, because Walking Ballista can just take out one of the blockers and he'll just lose both of the zombies. Yeah,
Walking
I'm pretty sure that if Paul double blocks a creature here, he just dies. Within 2 turns, at least. Maybe not immediately. It's still looking really bad, though.
It really is. Paul will have to have a pretty big draw step, given what we believe to be in his hand.
Yeah, so it looks like the best play is just take it.
Drop to 12. Hope to rip something significant.
We drop, like, he takes 12 and goes to 6, right?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah,
goes to
yeah,
6, That's
so-
what I meant.
Yeah. That's not the worst. Then you said he has Kalitas in hand.
Yes.
So he plays that, plays the grass, makes a zombie, crews the Sky Sovereign, and then he's sort of doing okay.
Chris Hart. Chris Hart.
Really tough decisions here as we get closer and closer to deciding the cut for top 8. Only
Yeah.
one player left undefeated in the entire room,
Nice.
at least before this round.
The clock is definitely ticking. Players still have plenty of time here, but Paul needs to make a decision.
A couple of judges hovering over him as well. We'll make sure that happens.
Yeah, he needs to make a decision.
Freestyle.
Yep. Single blocking is fine. I think the only options there were block one thing or just take all of it. I think I would have taken all of it.
Paul untaps. Let's see what he has here. It's a Crypt Breaker on the draw. Sky Sovereign's crew cost is 3.
Yep, so any of these creatures can crew this thing.
In comes Kalitas.
So my guess is he can crew this Sky Sovereign, attack, kill Walking Ballista, make a zombie, and then he still has grass for next turn when Brad attacks. Looks like Brad is going to respond to this Kalitas.
So that Paul won't get a zombie.
Correct. So he can crew in response now with the dead zombie.
Not sure if
So-
he did.
No, I think he did. It looked like he tapped it.
Did he? Okay.
Yep. So now that this thing is crewed, Sky Sovereign can get in there, do 3 to one of the creatures. It can be finished off with Grasp, and he'll still get a zombie.
Players participating.
Tense moments down in our feature match area for
Yep.
these last 2 attack steps.
Yep,
Oh my
tap
gosh.
those 2 mana, cast the Grass. That's really all you can do. Oh, it was a transgress the
transgress.
whole time. It was not even a Grasp. We were just wrong in the card that was in his hand.
Oh, I said transgress.
Okay. I'm just the worst then.
That is untrue. You are the best.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
Oh, this is great news.
legit. Down goes the Gear Hulk into the land of exile.
Steve Winter, this is your last call for standard number 10.
So now Paul is looking okay, especially now that he dealt with that Gear Hulk. So I think he just has to pass here. Keep Sky Sovereign up on defense.
Yep, and he does. Passes a turn back to Brad Nelson. 11 minutes on the clock here in the deciding game in this match, round 13.
Brad could not get another draw. That would be his 3rd draw.
That brutal.
One time I made day 2 of a Pro Tour the hard way. 3 draws.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a very weird Pro Tour. It was Pro Tour Valencia 2007. That was the Pro Tour that got flooded.
Oh, yeah, I heard about
Yeah,
that.
so day 1 just got canceled. And we were just like,
We're not talking about mana. Like, it was actually
Oh.
flooded.
oh no. There was a torrential downpour, and The
We're not
tournament
talking
hall
about
just
obscure
flooded.
Hulk. We're talking about rain. That's crazy.
They had to cancel the tournament, and we were just like, what do we do?
yeah.
And back then, like, smartphones were way less of a thing. You could really only find out about stuff like using the internet. We were all in Spain. We didn't really have a lot of internet, so we were just like, what happens? Is there a Pro Tour? What do we do? We kept like refreshing. We were just in the lobby using the computers that they had in the hotel, refreshing the daily MTG page, being like, is there a tournament? Is there a tournament? And then finally, like late on Friday, they're like, okay, there's a tournament. Day 1 on Saturday will be 10 rounds, and you go 7-3 to day 2.
Wow.
And then Sunday will be the final rounds, and then top 8. So I made day 2 the hard way, got 2 unintentional draws, and then the final round, it's like, well, if we draw, we just
get day two,
make day
so
2.
let's
We
do
can
it.
like, so 6-1-3 is technically like the same thing as 7-3 as far as points go. So it's like, all right, let's do this. Is that the hard way? I'm not really sure. It was pretty hard.
All right, Yehenny's expertise here for Brad Nelson after a Catacomb Sifter attack. We'll clear things up a little bit. Was it just a really slow format?
The deck I played was super, super slow. So it was extended, and the deck I played was Gifts Rot Control.
Wow.
So like Gifts Ungiven, tons of one-ofs, tons of decisions, Eternal Witness. I'm pretty sure Pernicious Deed was in the format, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong about that, but it was just a super high-intensive decision-heavy deck. Sensei's Divining Top was a thing, too.
wow.
I think I played like 1 copy or something.
There you get a look at Yehenny's expertise. How do you like packing this card this weekend?
Oh, this is a great card for this weekend. Zombies are everywhere. Mono red's everywhere. Great against weird decks that are trying to beat out mono red like tokens. So definitely a great card this weekend. I've seen a lot of players main decking this card.
Yep.
And this is one of the ways that Brad can come back from behind. Because Brad's creatures are bigger, but Paul can flood the board more. But if Brad can clean things up with Yehenny's expertise, then like his giant creatures will just take over.
Catacomb Sifter comes along. The Scion here for Brad. Kalitas in play with the Crypt Breaker and a Liliana's Mastery for Paul. Just has to pass the turn back again to Brad, who I think ripped a land there. But we'll see.
Yeah,
Nope.
the clock is definitely
Ooh.
ticking in this matchup.
Winding
And-
Constrictor.
and I don't see the game really ending anytime soon. So here we have a zombie.
Crypt
So-
Breaker activation.
If Paul draws a zombie, he can start drawing cards with that Crypt Breaker.
Passes back.
Yeah, it looks like he drew a land, which means another zombie. These players really need to pick up the pace, though, if they want to finish this game.
Wow. This is I mean, when you play these colors, you know that you might be in for a slog on the ground, and that certainly is what we're seeing here.
Yeah, black-green is known to be a super grindy deck. Like, back during old extended formats, it was called The Rock.
The Rock. I think that's what the movie The Rock is based on.
Yeah, it was based on Magic the Gathering.
Yeah. All right, Hissing Quagmire.
Looks like Brad is lining up an attack here. But his attacks don't really seem great. What do you do with this token?
Don't. That one's named Peter.
Oh, no.
Peter just went to the chiropractor in a big way there. Bye, Peter. We hardly knew you.
So Peter was sacrificed to scry and get a look at the top card of Brad's deck. Hopefully draw something sweet.
Fatal Push.
And doing that turned on Revolt for the Fatal Push.
Down goes Kalitas.
Now that Kalitas is gone, this game feels pretty over.
Boom. Brad swings in. 5 creatures.
Make a zombie.
Discard your land.
Have bad blocks.
Fatal Push.
These are some bad blocks, though. Like, if he blocks the 2/2/3s with the 3/3s, he just dies, so that's not an option. So it looks like his best option is chump a 4/5, block a 2/3,
That doesn't sound
and
great.
take 8. But I think that's the best block he has.
Yeah. It's going to block the Winding Constrictor. Yep, both Winding Constrictors there.
Yep. So he's taking 8. And then I believe he has no draws that can get him out of the game.
Yeah, Paul drops to 2.
Liliana's Mastery would be a good draw.
Attention, Grand Prix
Let's see what it'll be.
So Brad scried and kept the card on top and then just like shook his hands together. So he's like,
Oh,
he's feeling pretty
he's
confident
ready.
here. Okay, let's see if Paul drew Liliana's Mastery.
Well,
One of the few cards that can save him this game. Dark Salvation would be a good draw too. Actually, Dark Salvation would be the best draw here. Whoa, he
Whoa.
drew it. He drew the Dark
Wow.
Salvation. Whoa.
No way! What a top deck for Paul Hagen, taking out that Winding Constrictor.
That card was so perfect. He's making 3 zombies, and he killed a creature.
All right, so he now has 4 3/3 zombies plus a Crypt Breaker. Let's see if Brad is still happy about what he left on the top of his deck there.
And suddenly, Paul turned the corner. Oh, and he bottomed the card.
He did.
Wow.
I wonder what it was.
Wow. The card would have won the game, but then now that there are 3 more zombies on the battlefield, the card would just lose the game.
Oh, that is insane. Paul at 2, stabilizing Brad Nelson at 14. 3 minutes, 39 seconds left on the clock. Can either of these players close it out in time?
You know what Brad needs?
What?
A Walking Ballista.
Oh,
All right,
yeah.
do it. Walking
Oh, yeah.
Ballista. That was not Walking Ballista.
No. You just draw it and you just slam it on the table.
He probably has 1 turn to draw the Ballista and probably 1 scry because he's going to chump block with a 2/3, get a free scry. So if Walking Ballista is in the top 2 cards of his deck, Doomfall.
Doomfall.
Sack a creature, get a scry, but he's dead on board.
No way. What a
Oh, wait,
comeback.
actually, Doomfall exiles, so he doesn't even get a scry here. There is a Hissing Quagmire, I believe, among Brad's
Yes, there
lands.
is.
So he can block 2 things and take 8 and go to 1.
Brad Nelson just a turn or 2 ago, sure he had this game locked up. But that well-timed top deck from Paul. Dark Salvation.
That was the sickest draw.
Certainly was a Dark Salvation for Paul, who really needed that card not to pretty much be immediately dead to Brad's board.
Got to get in there. He can't even get in there with everything. He actually can't attack with everything, right? Because the 4/5 will just win him the game. All right,
All right.
get that out of there. Untap, draw Walking Ballista. Not
No,
Walking Ballista.
it was a land. All that's left for Brad is a Catacomb Sifter. Paul just turns them all sideways, draws a card, does it again. If near dead lands, and a Relentless Dead in hand. Dead lands here. Going to shrink down that Sifter.
Yep, it's
essentially
going to remove these
removing the
counters. Just an attack for 3. Because if Brad draws removal. All right, well, maybe if you had Relentless... Whoa! Drew the Walking Ballista!
Oh my God.
What a top deck!
Just like I thought he was going to do, he threw it down on the table. Paul going out the classy way, though, by activating his Crypt Breaker. Oh, that was insane.
That was unbelievable.
Wow, look at the look on Brad's face.
Very well played by Brad Nelson. Use those scries to his advantage. Just get those cards on the bottom.
Wow, that is
Get closer to that Walking Ballista.
that was
Wow.
the greatest end to a game
What a
I've
close
seen
game.
so far at this Grand Prix. Brad just signs that slip. Whew. Well, thanks for everybody watching that along with us. We're going to take a breather here. Be back after these messages.